There are over 600 Xyz monsters, but you'd be surprised how few of them are rank 11 or higher. Still, in this video, we're going to go over the absolute best of these high ranks. And starting off at number 10, we have number C1000 Numerounius. This is a rank 12 that's technically part of the Numeron archetype and needs 5 level 12 monsters as materials. And it can, once per turn, as a quick effect, detach material to destroy a card on the field. Then at the end of the battle phase, you can destroy as many other monsters on the field as possible to special summon one monster from your opponent's graveyard in defense position. To top it off, if it's destroyed by an opponent's card effect while it has material and is sent to your graveyard, you can special summon one number IC1000 Numerounius Numeronia from your extra deck and attach this card to it as a material. Now, it's pretty hard to summon a rank 12 monster naturally. Getting just a couple of level 12s out isn't really something decks can do, with the usual way of reaching this pool being using a rank 8 engine and then ranking it up into number 84 Pain Gainer to then reach rank 11 and finally use a rank up spell. In this card's case, getting this card's material out is basically impossible, but bringing it out the normal way is somehow not that much easier. For Numeron, the way to reach it is even more convoluted. First, you go through the usual Numeron combo of using Numeron Network to copy Numeron Calling, and then summon 4 Numeron Gate Xyz monsters from your extra deck, and then use one of them to summon number C1 Numeron Chaos Gate Sunya, which will then proceed to banish itself and destroy all other gates on the field. On the next standby phase, Sunya will come back through its effect, and then you must find a way to destroy it on the field and use a second copy of Numeron Network to copy Numeron Chaos Ritual, which will now have all the conditions fulfilled to special summon Numerounius from the extra deck and give it 100,000 attack and defense. Now, this is all in theory. In practice, Numeron would rather use its streamlined OTK plan with the 4 gates to win the game, rather than committing to a play that needs this much setup. So while Numerounius and Numerounius Numeronia represent some of the most over-the-top Xyz ever printed, they live on more in the realm of flashy combo showcases instead of normal gameplay. And at number 9, we have number 84 Pain Gainer. This is a rank 11 Xyz with an alternate summon condition, where you can Xyz summon this card by using a rank 8, 9, or 10 Dark Xyz monster you control with 2 or more Xyz materials as the XYZ materials for this card. This card gains defense equal to the combined ranks of all Xyz monsters you control times 200. And while this card has material, each time your opponent activates a spell or trap card, you can inflict 600 damage to your opponent immediately after it resolves. And also, once per turn, you can detach one Xyz material from this card to destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls with defense less than or equal to this card's. It's easier to understand the uses of Pain Gainer if we consider it an honorary rank 8, 9, or 10 Xyz monster. That way, the number of decks that can summon this card increases by a lot. On Orcus, for example, Dingirsu, summoned by overlaying a Link monster, can use its effect to attach a banished machine and fulfill the conditions to summon this card. While this card can't scale with the number of Xyz on the field, increasing its defense, by itself it will have a respectable 2200 defense, just high enough to destroy a good amount of cards you are likely to see on your opponent's side of the field, but it's important to remember a glaring issue with this card. Since the effect to destroy monsters in fields checks their defense of monsters, it can't destroy Link monsters, since they don't have defense stats. On the other hand, the burn effect might seem underwhelming at first, only burning 600 and only on spell and trap effects. But for a short period, thanks to the time rules and events, having access to a card that can burn your opponent, even once, was very relevant for situations where games could be decided by whoever had the most life points at the end of the round clock. Though thankfully, the rules don't allow for this kind of scenario to exist anymore. Pain Gainer is what I consider to be a very okay card. Not strong enough to be the first thing to consider in a deck, but enough applications to keep being an option in multiple decks, from Horus to Tistina, and interacting with the defensive monsters is not something we see every day. And since making this card is basically free as long as you have extra space, it's bound to see at least some more play with time. Following it up at number 8, we have number 77, the 7 Sins. This is a rank 12 Dark Fiend with 4000 attack that can be summoned by overlaying 2 level 12 monsters, or by using a rank 10 or 11 Dark Xyz you control as a material. But if summoned this way, you cannot activate its effect this turn. The effect in question is that once per turn, you can detach 2 materials from this card to banish as many special summon monsters your opponent controls, and attach one of those banished monsters to it as a material. Also, if this card would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach one of its materials instead. This card is very similar to the previous entry on the spirit of being a decent inclusion in any deck with access to rank 8s to 10. In fact, these two are often paired together, since you can use your Pain Gainer as a material to summon this card. This way you can convert your used Xyz monsters into a 4000 attack beater for easier OTKs. Or an inconvenient to remove monster that can threaten to banish the field if it survives. The reason why this card is ranked higher in this list is due to having some niche applications on other decks. For example, Labyrinth can have it as a target for Dogmatic Punishment, covering pretty much 99% of monsters in the game. Still, perhaps the most interesting application of this card is that it can be used as a huge Xyz rank ladder, starting on Wave King Caesar up to Divisor King Deus Machinax, then into Pain Gainer, and finally the 7 Sins, now with 5 materials. This lets you make the hugest Zeus with multiple uses of its field wipe effect. 7 Sins is another case of a card without a deck that always wants to have it, but that it can always find a place in different deck lists. In the near future, if we ever get a deck that ranks 12 monsters easily, this card is sure to be a staple there. And coming up at number 7, we have Raidraptor Rising Rebellion Falcon. This card is a rank 13 Xyz with 4000 attack that takes 5 level 13 Wing Beast monsters as its materials. It's unaffected by other card effects, and on summon, lets you destroy as many cards your opponent controls as possible. Then, if it has 3 or more Raidraptor Xyz monsters with different names under it, you also burn your opponent for the total attack of the destroyed monsters. Finally, once per turn, you can detach 3 materials from this card to target a Raidraptor in your graveyard, and gain that monster's effects until the end phase. First, we have to highlight something important. It's impossible to Xyz summon this monster the normal way. Monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Have only been printed up to level 12 so far, so to summon it, you need to go through one of the Raidraptor rank-up spells. One of them was released alongside this card, is Rise Rank-Up Magic Raidraptor's Force. This card can target 2 or more Raidraptor Xyz monsters you control and or in your graveyard. Then special summon 1 Raidraptor Xyz monster from your extra deck with a rank equal to their combined ranks, and attach the targets to the new Xyz. Another option the deck has is cheating it out through the graveyard with the effect of Raidraptor Arsenal Falcon. With this card being the second Towers monster for the archetype, it's impossible not to compare it to its predecessor, Raidraptor Ultimate Falcon. While that monster is a bit easier to summon, and has a powerful floodgate effect that can protect the rest of your plays after it hits the field, Rebellion Falcon is a much more explosive card, especially going second. It combines the protection of a Towers monster with a powerful board wipe on summon, and a potentially stronger and less conditional burn effect compared to Ultimate Falcon's 1000 damage during the end phase. We can also talk about how the effect of copying your graveyard Xyz monsters with Rebellion Falcon is extremely flexible. Through your other Raptors, you can search more cards and gain more attack by copying Raidraptor Blaze Falcon, or summoning any Wing Beast monster in your deck, copying Raidraptor Arsenal Falcon. That being said, this doesn't mean there's no place for both monsters in the deck. The ability to stop your opponent from using card effects with Ultimate Falcon can be extremely relevant in certain situations. But Rebellion Falcon is a much more explosive and game-ending card when it hits the field, and its combination of effects makes it worthy of being one of the 2 rank 13 monsters to currently exist in the game. And at number 6, we have Superdreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Liebe. This card is a rank 11 Earth Machine with 4000 attack and defense, and can be summoned by overlaying 3 level 11 monsters, or using 1 rank 10 Machine Xyz monster you control as a material. With its effect, once per turn you can detach 1 material from this card to gain 2000 attack and defense, but for the rest of the turn you can only declare attacks with this card. To counterbalance its restriction, it can attack monsters multiple times during each battle phase, up to the number of materials it has plus 1. Liebe is a very straightforward card. It's simply a massive monster designed to run over boards and OTK your opponent. As usual for this list, you are almost always using its alternate summoning condition to bring it out. With that in mind, the most common partner for Liebe is Gustav Max, a generic rank 10 machine that can detach 1 material to deal 2000 damage to your opponent. With this combo, you can easily see the plan. Overlay 2 level 10 monsters for Gustav Max to deal 2000 burn damage, then overlay into a 6000 attack Liebe that can attack 2 or 3 times depending on how many materials were used. Being essentially a generic rank 10 OTK option has made Liebe viable in a variety of decks. It is seen play in Eldritch, Flunderies, and even Yugioh as a way to end grindy matches. However, the real home for this card is Earth Machine. This deck can summon level 10 monsters extremely easy through cards like Urgent Schedule, and it has additional synergy with Xyz monsters through cards like Heavy Fright Train Dairy Crane. While Earth Machine isn't technically a single archetype, it constantly receives new support anyway, and it's hard to beat Liebe as a way to close out games. And at number 5, we have number 93, Utopia Kaiser. This is a rank 12 light warrior with 2500 attack that can only be special summoned by using 2 or more number Xyz monsters with the same rank that have materials attached. Once per turn, you can special summon number monsters with rank 9 or lower and 3000 or less attack from your extra deck with different ranks from each other, up to the number of materials with different names attached to this card. Their effects are negated. Then you detach 1 material from this card. If you resolve this effect, for the rest of the turn, you can't special summon monsters, and any battle damage your opponent takes becomes halved. It also cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects while you control another number Xyz monster. The summon condition for this card sounds more complicated than it actually is. In practice, you can think of it as requiring 4 materials of the same level, something easily accomplished through cards like Zubababa Knight and Dododo Warrior, or using the effect of Utopia Double to cheat it out. On field, Kaiser may seem restrictive because of its special summon limitations, but that's not quite the case. The decks that can facilitate this card the most are the Zubababa and Friends strategies. In those decks, you have access to Zaxel Construction, which can search any rank-up magic spell. This allows you to get one of the quick play rank-up spells to transform your negated number monsters into stronger boss monsters. A great example is using Kaiser to summon number 11 Big Eye. Then, during the opponent's turn, ranking it up with Phantom Knight's rank-up magic launch into Duo Dawn King Kaliyuga, a monster whose Xyz summon effect prevents other cards from activating and negates all other effects on the field, effectively locking the opponent out of the game. It's easy to look at Kaiser and think it's an impractical way of cheating out Xyz monsters, but with more and more automat cards being released and rank-up spells becoming easier to access through Zaxel Construction and Astraltopia, there's definitely room to explore this card further. Following it up at number 4, we have number 99, Utopia Dragonar. This card is a rank 12 light warrior with 3000 attack and defense that requires 3 or more level 12 monsters as materials. With this card, you can, as a quick effect, detach 2 materials to special summon 1 number monster from your extra deck that has a number between 1 and 100 in its name. This is treated as a proper Xyz summon. During the turn you activate the effect, other monsters you control cannot attack directly, and you cannot special summon from the extra deck except Xyz monsters. Also, when your opponent declares an attack, you can change that monster's attack to 0. Despite being rank 12, in a deck that primarily focuses on rank 4 monsters, Dragonar is surprisingly easy to summon. With any 2 level 4 monsters, you can Xyz summon number 39 Utopia Double. Then use its effect to search Double or Nothing, and then special summon a Utopia monster to bring it out. You can also play ZS Ascended Sage, which gives any rank 4 you make with its ability to search Hyper Rank Up Magic Utopia Force. And you can search ZS Ascended Sage itself with ZS Utopic Sage, making the line incredibly consistent. Because Dragonar can summon any number monster and its Chaos variants, there are a huge number of options available. You can summon negates from the same archetype like Ultimate Leo Utopia Ray, funny floodgates like number 4 Stealth Kraken, or annoying ones like Baguska. However, the most common targets are Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, which provides a monster negate, and Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy, a powerful spell card negate. Since Dragonar can activate its effect as a quick effect, if you have enough materials, something easily achievable with alternative summon conditions from cards like Utopia Prime, you can even bring out multiple monsters in a single turn. The combination of a diverse pool of monsters it can summon, and a deck that can consistently bring it out in automats, makes Dragonar one of the strongest options for summoning number monsters in general. And at number 3, we have Super Quantal Mech King Great Magnus. This is a rank 12 light machine with 3600 attack, which gains effects depending on the number of materials with different names attached to it. With 2 materials, once per turn during the main phase, you can detach 1 material to shuffle a card on the field into the deck. With 4 or more, it becomes unaffected by card effects except Super Quant cards. With 6 or more, your opponent cannot add cards from their deck to their hand by card effects. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can also special summon 3 Super Quantal Mech Beast Xyz monsters with different names from your grave. As the name suggests, Great Magnus is the centerpiece of the Super Quantal archetype. To summon it, the deck must go through 3 of its smaller Xyz monsters, and then use the second effect of the field spell, Super Quantal Mech Ship Magna Carrier, to summon 3 Super Quantal Mech Beast monsters onto the field or in the graveyard, and then special summon Great Magnus, attaching those monsters to it as materials. With the other effect on field, you can discard a card to target a main deck Super Quantal monster, and then immediately summon the corresponding Xyz monster of the same attribute on top of it. As long as you have 3 Super Quantals of different attributes on the field, and the field spell Magna Carrier, you can combine these effects to bring out Great Magnus. This exact combination of effects can be extremely crippling for many decks. Preventing your opponent from adding cards from their deck to their hand is an effect seen only on a handful of cards, many of which have been banned or restricted in the past. When you consider that drawing cards also counts as adding cards from the deck to the hand, this effect even stops things like Pot of Desires or Upstart Goblin. Putting such an effect on a monster that is also nearly immune to card effects and can shuffle cards back into the deck makes it incredibly difficult to deal with unless you stop it before it hits the field, or open a natural out to a tower's monster like a kaiju. Magnus is a perfect example of a very powerful boss monster being held back only by the relative strength of its archetype. And at number 2, we have Super Starslayer TY-PHON Sky Crisis. This is a rank 12 Dark Fiend with 2900 attack and defense. To summon it, if your opponent special summoned 2 or more monsters from their extra deck this turn or the previous turn, you can Xyz summon this card by using the monster you control with the highest attack as material. While this Xyz summoned card is on the field, neither player can activate the effects of monsters with 3000 or more attack. Once per turn, you can also detach 1 material to return a monster from the field to the hand. TY-PHON is one of the most interesting going second cards released in recent years. Its summoning condition is extremely easy to fulfill, and has appeared in a wide variety of decks since its release in 2023. It can turn a simple normal summon into a powerful floodgate capable of disabling boss monsters like Baronne de Fleur, or stopping the quick effect of Expelliarmus Noir if it's reached 3000 attack. More recently, it's also seen interesting applications in K9 Vanquish Soul. If you open K9 Lupus, or send it to the graveyard with a Zuna, you can summon TY-PHON during your opponent's turn, if they special summon 2 more monsters from the extra deck. This creates a floodgate against any monster with 3000 or more attack, that is also protected from targeting thanks to Lupus. Then, since TY-PHON's restriction only lasts until the end of the turn, if your opponent fails to remove it and you start your next turn by transferring it into an untargetable Zeus and completely wiping your opponent's board. The ability to convert almost any monster going second into a 2900 attack floodgate that can also bounce a card back to the hand makes TY-PHON an incredibly powerful toolbox card that can fit into pretty much any deck. And finally, at number 1, we have Divine Arsenal AA-ZEUS Sky Thunder. This is a rank 12 light machine with 3000 attack that has an alternative summoning condition. If an Xyz monster is battled this turn, you can Xyz summon this card by using 1 Xyz monster you control as a material. On the field, it can, as a quick effect, detach 2 materials to send all other cards on the field to the graveyard. Also, once per turn, if another card you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can attach any card from your hand, deck, or extra deck to this card as a material. Zeus is perhaps the most modern poster child of an Xyz monster. If your deck has any ability to put 2 monsters of the same level on the field, it immediately becomes a card worth considering. The condition of an Xyz monster battling is extremely easy to fulfill, and an important detail is that the card only says an Xyz monster must have battled that turn. That means, if you crash one of your monsters into an Xyz monster your opponent controls, you can transform any Xyz you control during the main phase 2 into a Zeus. Another key detail is that Zeus's board wipe effect is not once per turn. Because of this, monsters that can be Xyz summoned using other Xyz monsters as materials can give it multiple activations. For example, any deck that can make a rank 3 or lower monster can overlay to a downward magician and then summon Zeus with an extra material, giving it an additional board wipe with 4 materials. Having multiple activations forces the opponent to have multiple negates ready or risk their entire board. The threat of 2 monsters of the same level on the field going second might not sound like much, until you consider the surprisingly defensive options available. For example, Sprite decks can use number 2 Ninja Shadow Mosquito, a rank 2 monster that can't be destroyed by battle, to safely crash into anything on the board. Rank 4 decks can use Light Dragon at Ignister, which cannot be destroyed by card effects. Rank 3 decks have Fortune Tune, which has both targeting and battle protection. Rank 5s have Tiaras, Keeper of Genesis, but the most extreme example of a deck abusing Zeus is definitely Zodiac. In that deck, any single Zodiac monster can become a full Xyz ladder. You can summon multiple Zodiac Xyz monsters stacking materials until you have a 5 material Zodiac Borbo, which can then attack directly and become a 6 material Zeus. Zeus is one of those cards that permanently change the way players think about the game. Just like how Gores changed the way players attacked, or how Mech Knights made people think about columns, Zeus is a card that can make anyone fear for their board simply by seeing 2 monsters of the same level appear.